dear participants, this time we go to lesson 7, delivering the right message. So for this session, it will cover both how you deliver the message, and that will include monitoring and evaluation, meaning how the message you have delivered created the effectiveness and the effect you wanted to see. So this is very interesting on the latter part of the course, because in a way it links this to all other previous lessons. So for this lesson, we have the following objectives. First, we'll identify the different tips and strategies for delivering the right message to the right audience at the right time. In the previous lessons you've had, you were taught now how to develop the right message, who are the right audience. We'll be going back to them on those topics, but what is important here is at the right time. We'll emphasize here the importance of timing. We'll explain the concept of monitoring and evaluation, and we'll define risk communication plan, monitoring, and evaluation framework. So on the second bullet, it's a general monitoring and evaluation as a concept. And on the third bullet, we'll putting the disaster risk communication plan context into the monitoring and evaluation. We'll also describe various tools for monitoring and evaluation, and very important, explain campaign evaluation, meaning all our efforts, what's the result of this campaign, of all of these messages. So it's going to be very exciting. So for the first bullet, I identify different tips and strategies for delivery, or for delivering the right message to the right audience at the right time. So I would like to say here, tell you this, it's not what you say, but how you say it that really matters. No? So meaning you may have a very good message, but you don't get the desired effect or effectiveness because the issue is how you say it. That's why there's even a saying that what you are, shout so loudly in my ear that I cannot hear what you are saying. So what does it mean? At times, it's not even the words we're saying that effectively communicates, but our gesture, us ourselves, us as an institution. So that's pretty important as well. So tips for delivering the right message to the right person, at the right time. I'll just give you 3, so it will be very easy for you to remember. Number 1, know the channel. You've discussed the different channels or the medium, they say. Okay, what medium are you using to get your message across? You know the channel. Get the message read, meaning because of this COVID situation now, most likely the message we're delivering is something that's more non-verbal. So meaning they have to read it. Okay, so how do we ensure that our messages are read? Okay, and decide when to send it. In my earlier explanation of the objectives, timing is crucial. At times, it's all about timing. So let's start with knowing the channel. Okay, you need to know where you'll be sending the message. Now, it's interesting that I've seen some of your outputs in your discussions, in your initial output for the risk communication plan. So you have good messages, but the question is, where will you be sending those messages? Something for you to reflect on as you enhance your disaster risk communication plan. More importantly, whom you want to receive the message. You've identified already the location where you'll be sending, but who are those who will receive those messages or those message? On what platform do they engage with the most content? So platform, in the previous lessons, you were taught of different channels. Now, what platform? SMS? Would it be um, posters? Would be a radio message, what mass media, whatever form, review on that. But these are important things you need to know. Where do they prefer to get the information? Again, no, it's it's not what you say. Important is how you say it. Important is the timing, but you also need to see or to analyze where do they get those information. Where do they prefer? Do they prefer the mobile phone? Do they prefer newspapers, local TV, local cables, um, messages from the different villages head, among others? Those are things you need to know. So the more specific your answers to these bullets, the better prepared you are to act. Okay, so knowing the channel. So if you're going with a more direct messaging strategy, meaning like what I'm doing now, it's a direct messaging strategy. Be sure to know the etiquette before you reach out. So I'm assuming that I didn't violate any etiquette. No? So again, as part of knowing the channel, see, I'm reviewing you. You've discussed this already. You have less effective and more effective means of communication. So richer medium, leaner medium. So unaddressed documents, even us, no, we would see bulk emails, posters, and most likely we don't get to see it. No? Okay. Written addressed documents. So as you move up, as you move up, you will see the level of effectiveness of the channel. So you already had a message in mind, consider what medium. That will enhance effectiveness. Okay. Next, get the message read. Make sure that whether it's a poster, it's read. Whether it's an SMS, it's read. If it's an email, it is read. So, just interesting information. 59% of all links shared to social networks aren't actually clicked on at all, implying the majority of article shares aren't based on actual reading. What does it mean? Why am I saying this? Wait, let me go to the next. Identifying influencers can help you distribute your story to their loyal followers. Let's say in a village, or in a barangay, or in um, a certain geographical unit. And because of COVID, most likely our means of sharing is through the internet, internet platform. And most likely there will be links. We can say that if you want to know more information about how to evacuate, or if you want to know more information about how we will do the vaccine, please click this link. The end. Based on the figure, the likelihood of them clicking the link is not really high. So you have to consider that. And decide when to send it. So if you know your channel, you get your message read, send it at the right time, your content won't get lost in the noise. So see when to send it, the right thing. I like this one. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. So what am I trying to say here? It's all about the timing of the message that you'll be communicating to your target audience. So just something for you to reflect on as you finalize your disaster risk communication plan. So best timing per messaging channel, as I've said, because of COVID, the face-to-face interaction is limited. So I pick some three most common channel for messaging. What is this one? Everybody's favorite, I think, Facebook. So Facebook, the engagement rate on Thursdays and Fridays, okay, and engagement is 32% on weekends. So engagement rate is 18% higher on Thursdays and Fridays as you move towards the weekend, and engagement is 32% higher on weekends. So I emphasize here the best time to send the message if you will use the social media platform, this particular platform, which is Facebook. Okay? So, and this will also help not just in the disaster risk communication, even uh, uh, in your personal dealings, because you send messages via Facebook. So consider this the best time where you will feel that they will read it. Okay. Next, Twitter. For Twitter, studies have found that engagement is 17% higher on weekends. No? So retweets are highest at 5 p.m. The best times to tweet, I've also mentioned here. No? But while Facebook is more popular than Twitter, but the most popular form is the SMS. Okay? So short messaging is one of the most immediate channels available. Okay? So it has an open rate of 98%. See, very interesting. Open rate of 98% within 15 minutes of delivery. So if I sent you a message, whether it's WhatsApp or Line or whatever SMS, okay, in 15 minutes, 98% is that they will open it. Okay, so but I would also like to emphasize here, 4 to 6 SMS messages a month is just the ideal if you want to get your message across, because SMS is something personal, so you don't want to flood them. So if you want to keep informing the community or your target audience, then 4 to 6 SMS a month would be fine. No? Never flood them. So I hope this helped. But the beauty of this presentation is you can always go back. I shared to you the curriculum, so the details are there as well. Huh? So earlier is the tips. Here are 6 strategies for delivering your message with style. Okay, so I emphasize here 2 important words: message with style. No? So I also would like to deconstruct first message. No? Most likely when message is fine, but when you hear style, you'll probably be thinking, oh, what would be the best style so that my message is read, is heard, is understood. No? So here are some of the strategies that you can use. You may consider inputting that when you develop your disaster risk communication plan. First, be clear on your message. Several sessions has been mentioned already, was discussed, okay? Talking about the clarity of your message, you know? So we'll go back to this. I'll just run it to you one by one. You need to prioritize, because the tendency is we're so excited to say a lot of things in a short period of time that uh, we tend to lose the message. So we need to prioritize. We'll discuss each of them. Set context and expectations. Set the high road. This is interesting. I'll discuss this. Look the part, meaning when you deliver the message, they create a picture of you as someone who's reliable, credible. So look that part, no? Meaning let people see that in you. and ignore the introvert extrovert mystery. The reason I'm saying this is when people deliver message, they're saying that I'm not good because I'm basically the introvert type. He's very good because he's basically the extrovert type. For this, there's no such thing. So, so here, just simply saying that being clear on your message means you're very short, no, precise. In the earlier um, discussion forum, they even mentioned about the word kiss, correct? Keep it short, stupid. So if you don't want to appear stupid, let's be very clear on our message, you know. And then what prioritize? What is it that you wanted to say? When you have these two, then it creates credibility. Set the context and expectations. It's good to know that you'll have an understanding of who your audience are. In fact, you don't just simply deliver your message without an understanding of who your audiences are. So you already had the background. Set the high road. Okay. My point here is that I could also link that to number 5. No? Like we have to be different. We have to set a certain high standard here because seriously, they look at us differently. They look at us differently. We can be the authority. Okay, they have expectations. So we have to play and look that part. And as I've said in the 6, okay, we'll ignore the introvert extrovert mystery because it doesn't matter whether you're introvert or extrovert, you can deliver the message with style. Now, because as I've said, the first bullet, you have discussed that previously in the lessons, then, but the new lesson here is the concept of monitoring and evaluation. So let's start. What is monitoring and evaluation? Okay, that's part of your disaster risk communication plan. So basically, monitoring is a continuous process that entails the regular collection and analysis of data to assist timely decision making. So it's not just data gathering. You gather data for what? Okay, for decision making. Check whether activities are being executed according to plan, ensure accountability, provide the basis for evaluation and learning. So monitoring is a continuous process from the start even until the end of the implementation of your disaster risk communication plan. Okay? But the quality of your decision hinges heavily on the data that you collect. Okay? So we'll discuss that further. Evaluation, on the other hand, assesses the degree of success obtained and determines to what extent the anticipated outcomes are produced. So if we now go back, you have your messages. You want to change perception. Remember, change their perception of risk. How do they view risk? Why is it that some people view this as something that will provide them with disaster risk or losses? Others say that's not a risk. So that's a perception, right? So to what extent, okay, your messages change perceptions? Those are outcomes, okay? Evaluation measures whether the behavioral communication objectives have been achieved through specific intervention and activities. We're now on the latter part of the course, so I think we're now pretty much established as to what disaster risk communication want to achieve. No? But evaluation is crucial because it determines if you have achieved it or not. And evaluation also provides insights to lessons learned and promising practices. Okay, so but it's good that these are captured very well, not the lessons learned. But in some of my experience, but not in risk communication, but more on the general monitoring and evaluation, the word lessons learned is a bit abused because I always say this: have we really learned the lessons, or we were just able to identify the lessons, but we haven't really learned from the lessons? So just something for us to to remind ourselves, not to tick our minds. Now, monitoring and evaluation, interesting. It's a continuous process, as I've said. Okay, take note, during or shortly after the implementation of the project. Okay, here, ongoing or completed project, but take note, strategy or thematic area of work. It's more about the journey. Here, it's more about the destination, how we get there. Now, let's put context on your risk communication planning. How are we progressing? The messages. We're delivering messages. We're training people. We're changing perceptions, knowledge, skills. Okay? We're doing all of those. But what was the result? That's where evaluation comes in. More about the destination and the effectiveness of our chosen path. So review also our goals, objectives. Okay, are they smart? Because we'll be monitoring evaluation will look into your set goals and objectives. So it's all about results. So here, just you can read through this, but I'm presenting to you some areas so you, because while we don't separate monitoring and evaluation, they go together, like hand and glove, but they're really different. They're really different. Make, don't put them together as one, no? Because in terms of timing, utility, focus, or even the methodology are totally different. So it's here. Okay? Now, further, that's the general one, but because of COVID, now health issue becomes um, an important consideration. So according to the Health Communications Capacity Collaborative 2016, MNE allows to track progress of activities against indicator. So indicator, what is an indicator? An indicator is a measure of a situation or a condition. Okay? So you need to have an indicator on those objectives you've set. Okay? Now, I also wanted to say that we have these interventions because we're trying to address a problem, correct? So a problem is an unwanted deviation from the standard, okay, from the standard. And therefore, because it's a situation, it has a measure, and the measure is what you call indicator. So make sure you have those. Review your objectives, review your activities. Do you have indicators in terms of percentage, numbers, among others? So M&E allows to adapt the strategy as needed against program goals and objectives. I've mentioned that already. Provide accountability to the audiences, partners, and donors. That's why in the M&E, there's a section there that who's responsible for what. Okay, so and now there's even MIL. Before it's just M&E, monitoring and evaluation. It now and then it evolved, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Now there's even MIL, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. So they're factoring in accountability now. So M&E allows to assess the success of your communication activities. Identify lessons learned and best practices, and inform future emergency, disaster, or crisis risk communication. See? So what you'll be developing in reality could also be used in future emergencies or disasters, be it in earthquakes, be it for floods. So it will still be used, for future in the future. So we need to know its importance, because if it's not important, then let's ignore M&E. Don't do it. But it is important because it promotes the learning process, organizational learning. Okay? Because you don't undertake your risk communication individually. For this project, for this training, different individuals coming from different organizations, but in essence, the risk communication plan is implemented by individuals of an organization or organizations. Okay, so it facilitates learning as well. Okay. Helps in steering, accountability, mentioned already, and it's linked to other results agenda. Okay, because disaster risk communication, so how does it contribute to SFDRR, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, Sustainable Development Goals, among others, And then it stimulates dialogue among different stakeholders. Okay, because in M&E, there's a section there, means of verification. Okay, the processes. So among the processes would be dialogue and discussions with stakeholders. So, almost done, 3 more. Define risk communication plan, monitoring, and evaluation framework. This is short, but very important. I think, if I'm not mistaken, just one slide here. So, I just want to show this to you, okay? So, you have 4 components of monitoring and evaluation: inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impacts. So look at now your disaster risk communication. Most likely, this is the impact you wanted to achieve. Then you work backwards. Okay, but I'll just briefly explain this so that what you write are actually outcomes, not outputs, or outputs, because some has the tendency to put this as this, and then this on that. So let's be very clear. Inputs, these are resources, meaning if you don't have this, you will not be able to deliver your outputs. Now, outputs, these are things you are responsible for delivering. This is directly under your control, meaning this is your commitment that you need to deliver. Let's say, for example, behavioral change communication. Let's say, for example, training. What do you need for you to be able to train people? Resource persons, money, curriculum, among others. And if you have those, you can train. And then the output is number of trainings conducted and number of participants trained. Now, this is where I've noticed that, not in this course, but in my dealings, when it comes to training or increasing knowledge and capacities or changing behavior, they always put their output increase knowledge. No. I will tell you now, no. Increase knowledge, increase awareness. No. Okay, even if it can be measured. Why? It falls under outcomes. Because I'm telling this, the increase in knowledge, okay, is is not is is not within your control, no? Directly within your, it's not directly within your control. There are factors. Okay. Unlike outputs, these are the things you need to deliver so that it can be used and reach to the outcome. So when you're looking at outcomes and impacts, here you're talking of the change in the situation or change in the condition. Okay? From bad to good, from from good to better, among others. Unlike for outputs, this is from absence to presence. You get my point? From absence to presence, from none into something. Okay, so it's not a condition or situation. This is something more tangible. So I hope that sets clear in the context also of your risk communication plan. See, change in behavior practices, measures. So let me repeat, during my discussion in goals and objectives, right? And in one, no, I think not in the goals and objectives, but in one of the meetings I had with you, I've mentioned the 5 levels of behavioral change: knowledge, agreement or acceptance, intention, practice, and then advocate or advocacy. You may use that within this context as well. So fourth, we'll describe the tools, okay? Tools, various tools for monitoring and evaluation, okay? So data and tools for monitoring and evaluation system. When you're talking of system, you're looking at practices, people, activities, materials, all working together. So monitoring and evaluation is not just an activity, it's a system. That's why I emphasize here system. So when you're doing monitoring and evaluation, you only have two types of data. Okay? Only two types of data, but different tools. You have the quantitative data, so numbers and percentages. It is often used to answer what, to what extent, how many, how much materials you've provided, how many audiences you've targeted. If you're targeting women, how many, all of those. Okay, if you're targeting a specific population of youth, how many, etc. So much percent. But I've also mentioned in the goals and objectives, no, that uh, if you're not sure of your universe and universe is fluctuating, okay, it all better to use percentage for targets, than absolute values. Ratios are better than absolute values. So quantitative data. So what are your data collection tools there? Forms completed by community mobilizers if you're thinking of having people there. Surveys, door-to-door, phone and SMS, so you can tally, oh, we went to so much number of houses, talked to so much people, and these are the results. So those are quantitative data. Logs of phone calls to the hotline if you're saying, here, not hotline, but click. Remember my earlier message, get your message read. And then click. If you want to know more about this, click this. So you will see how many persons you've shared the message to, and then how many of them click that link. That's quantitative data. Participants list, materials distribution list. Okay, clear? Quantitative. Now, qualitative data as well. Important in monitoring and evaluation. Types of questions received, reactions in the community, and behavior. It is often used to answer how or why questions. Earlier, it's more on here, it's more on how many, how much, to what extent. But here, it's more on the how and the why. Okay? So, data collection tools, observe. No? There's also what you call process, no? Process observation, in-depth interviews, no? Open-ended questions, focus group discussions, the most common, log to questions received by hotline, among others. No? Case studies. Case studies are good, as I've said, but the only limitation of a case study is you're provided with certain, there's a certain limitation as to the information you can provide. Or if it's in a training, the use of case study information may be a bit limited. But the good thing about case studies is it's really short rather than reading volume of documents. No? So the last part, explain campaign evaluation. So all your efforts, you wanted it to become effective. You want to see the desired effect. So your campaigns, vaccination campaigns, you want people to get vaccinated, inoculated. You want people to go to evacuation sites, for example, in Bangladesh when there's cyclone. You want people to seek safer grounds when there's earthquake because you have drills. Now, those are campaigns. How do you know? This is the last part. So campaign evaluation. The goal and objectives are what tell the communicators, that's you, how well they are doing and when they have achieved what they set to accomplish. Remember again the 4 components of the monitoring and evaluation: input, output, outcomes, impacts. Okay? So basically, you're looking here at more on the outcome and at the impact level. Okay? But it's always good if we have the desired impact. You don't evaluate your campaign based on output. Never ever say, oh, we're very good. We were able to produce tons and tons of IEC materials. No. Okay? Were they used? Did they change behavior? That's campaign evaluation. Meeting the stated objective is the entire purpose of the campaign. But one must be able to know when they have been achieved. Okay? How do you know that you've been there? It's monitoring and evaluation. And it is through campaign evaluation that this occurs. So if your risk communication plan is 1 year, somehow at the end, you'll see if it had the desired impact or the desired result. Now, I don't know if this term is still being used, but that's why there's also what you call midterm evaluation, somewhere in the middle, because because at some point you don't have to wait for the project or your campaign to end to see changes. in behavior. So there's a mid-level, mid-term evaluation or mid-evaluation. And in the late 90s and early 2000, there's also what you call flashlight evaluation. Flashlight means you're just, when you have a flashlight turn on the light, it's flashlight because it's very straight. So in the context of evaluation, you're looking only at one aspect of the different evaluation areas you wanted to focus on. Okay, so consider those. Campaign evaluation focus. Okay, just two. I've been mentioning this earlier: effectiveness and effects. Okay, so your 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 evaluation focus looks into the effectiveness and the effects. Okay, effects, outcomes produced by the campaign. Okay, effectiveness, measure of how well the campaign is at reaching the target audience. Remember, you can be effective, but you didn't have the desired effect. I'll be very clear. You can be effective or even efficient because it reached your target. Okay? Far-flung areas. It reached those communities who don't want to be inoculated. Very good, you reach. But what was the effect? So you have to consider that as well. So evaluation types, the last part, I'll just focus on the four, but in essence, you just simply look at the four aspects of evaluation: input, output, outcome, and impact, and it basically falls within this. So, so therefore, just I don't expect you to get everything in one sitting just by listening to my presentation, but review the curriculum I shared with you. It's all about practice. Okay, so and then the different methods as well. Just two methods: the true experimental design and the quasi experimental design. Okay, so through experimental design, just what's the characteristic? You have a treatment group. Okay, is the segment of the target audience that receives the campaign. Remember, we're now talking of your evaluation. Okay, treatment group. So if you're targeting a certain barangay, for example, in Makati, okay, these are the target, who among them, target audience. You have a control group. We use a control group is drawn from a target audience and it's the same as the treatment group in all ways except for the fact that they are not exposed to the campaign. So you have to see the difference. No? You have a control group and the treatment group, because there are times when there were researches or development work wherein some are not recipient of an intervention, but they're much, then at the end they become better off than those treatment group that receive a certain support. In this case, campaign, you need to see the two. Okay, so that's a true experimental design. And then you have the quasi-experimental design. Practitioners can rarely withhold information from a certain segment of the population, such as those who are selected to serve as an experimental group. Therefore, many communication campaigns choose to use quasi-experimental design. And the experimental design too requires more work, no? But in terms of really getting the desired result, my bias is still for the true experimental design. Okay, so quasi experiments are similar to true experiment in most respect, but I wrote it here. Others, other than they do not fulfill all true experimental design requirements. Here, usually because they do not assume random assignment to treatment control conditions. So you need to read this well because this is also an aspect of research. No? I try to make it as simple as I can. It may take time if it will take longer if I'll explain to you this, but I hope I made myself clear here. As I've said, my presentation will just trigger learning for you to read more. No? But I hope this one is quite clear to you. So in essence, no, let's just go back. Were we able to identify the different tips and strategies in delivering the right message to the right audience at the right time? Okay, so as I've said, timing is essential. Okay, so we've mentioned also to you what are the different channel and the best time to deliver those. I gave you. If it's Facebook, if it's SMS, if it's Twitter, so consider those. I think that's the value of this first bullet. Okay, explain the concept of monitoring and evaluation. I hope you've seen the importance of monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring is a daily thing, continuing process, not necessarily daily, but continuing process. And the data you use, you collect, are used for decision making. Evaluation is looking into changes. What has changed? Okay? Define risk communication plan. I hope we were able to define risk communication plan, monitoring and evaluation framework. One slide, very important. Input, output. Inputs are resources you need to deliver your output. Outputs are non-negotiable. These are the things you committed to deliver and therefore it is within your control. Outcomes are the results of using the outputs, okay? And so monitoring and evaluation is more on the input and the output, while outcomes and the impacts are more on the evaluation because you're looking at what has changed. So we describe tools, various tools for monitoring and evaluation. So we've said there are just two types of data, okay? Qualitative and quantitative, and I've mentioned to you the different tools, no? And then the last part is we've explained campaign evaluation, which means that your campaign must be the focus must be on the effectiveness and the effect. Effectiveness means and efficiency means you were able to reach your target audience, but did you have the desired effects? So so with that, I would like to thank you for listening to this session, to this lesson. And if you have questions at any given time, during the course or even after the course, feel free to keep in touch. So that'll be no problem because even me, I learn a lot from participants when they ask questions, when we exchange, it also gives me a different perspective. So thank you and enjoy the remainder of the course.